Thank you, everybody. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to follow that intro from Pete, but yeah, um, I think software's sexy. I know it's not the most sexy thing to talk about at the time of the morning, but it's not really about the software for me. It's about sort of outcomes for business. I'm not really super excited about, oh, look at this new whizzy thing and it's amazing. I'm like, well, yeah, what can we do with it? How can we make money? How can it make people's life easy? And I think at the moment, we have an absolutely amazing opportunity as small business owners. There's never been so much software available to our fingertips. And I think it's really powerful. And it helps us compete with some of the larger companies. And maybe like 10, 15 years ago, we would have needed tens of thousands of pounds worth of bespoke software development to be able to achieve that. There is a place for bespoke software development, but I think within your business, there's so many opportunities with cloud software, but there's plenty of challenges around it. And I think we've all been bombarded with marketing, with making some very bold claims about how much time we can save and how much efficiency it can be. So um, just a little few stats here. I quite like stats. So you can read those and think, yeah, these are my favorite stats on the current software landscapes. But for me, the key message is are your systems actually being counterproductive? And what could you be doing instead? And could your staff be more efficient, happier, and empowered? So I think there's some real, and there's situations at the moment that's really easy to get led to an area where you're spending a lot of time switching between systems, and you can't find the right data or the right information, and it's really counterproductive to what that's been promised about efficiency. So there is so much software out there, and this slide just shows some of the things that I've spoken to about people in the last 3 months. It's absolutely staggering how much software is available for your business, and it's sort of understandable. Is where do you start? Where do you stop? What's the best software for your company? How do I make sure they work for me? And I think there's some really bold marketing ploys out there at the moment that you've just got to be really careful about. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things you can do to maybe avoid some of the issues that you might come across. So I like to start with this little slide about what's your journey. What does that look like? And we're going to talk about there's a journey within software within a company, and if and it depends where you are on this journey, where you are in that phase. And sometimes this can be right for you as a business, and sometimes it could be holding you back. So at the startup end of the business, so this is when you just started out. You've got what I call electronic paper. So you might have some email, you might have a calendar, and some standard office tools like Word and Excel. But really, you're just shuffling paper around, but on the computer. It's when you're using this software out of the box. So we've all started there. We all know what that looks like. We sort of moved to what I call the reactive phase. So this is a phase that we're all in, and I admit that I'm in this at the moment as well. So you might end up with piece of accounting software. You might end up with a CRM, maybe a number of productivity tools. You've got some data in the cloud. You've got some data in a file system. You might have some web front end. You might have some e-commerce. And sometimes you also get the things that you have which is specific to your industry sector. So there's software that everybody in a certain area uses as well. So you start to get that sort of dispersion of operations across saftware. You'll also have, if you're anything like me, loads and loads of spreadsheets, which in itself it turns out to be a whole industry to manage, and you maybe wonder why you're doing this and what benefit it is. So the symptoms we see of the sort of startup and reactive phases, you've got lots of isolated software, and within that you've got data silos. So you've got data in different areas, and to do the workflows you need to run your day-to-day business, you're copy and pasting between systems, you're context switching between applications. It all feels a little bit disjointed. Okay, great. They're the symptoms. The challenges of this is that it doesn't really scale well. So sometimes this level of fragmentation of operations across different bits of software doesn't scale. It makes automation of sort of manual tasks a little bit tricky to do, and you might have things like it's hard to onboard new staff because you've got to onboard them and teach them how to use lots of different pieces of software, and sometimes it's difficult to be flexible, and it can be an overhead to manage as lots of things need setting up in different apps, and it can end up being a bit costly. But there is a way, and that's what I call the purposeful businesses. Now, this isn't a change that happens overnight, but this is where you have a process for managing onboarding a new software. You eliminate the sort of proliferation of software where you're sort of signing up for lots of different things, and you harness things like integration. So basically, all your applications talk to each other, data flows seamlessly across them, and you sort of really make sure that software works together in a real cohesive plan. And then up to the optimized businesses. Now, this isn't even some of the large businesses aren't really even here, but at that level, they're pulling all the data together to harness the power of data insights across lots of different systems. And in addition to the software stack, their processes and procedures are nailed. They have a set process. They know how their business works, and they know how transactions flow from one side to the other, or how orders get created, and their software is really aligned to that, and they've got really high levels of efficiency and innovation, things like that. Moving over that way doesn't happen overnight, and it's not easy, and it's a lot of incremental steps, but I think businesses that move towards that are really exciting. So I'm going to tell you a little bit what I would call about the bear traps. So these are the things that might stop you moving on that journey to where you can really get the benefit from the business. So the first thing I talk about is select sensibly. So when you're looking for a new system within your organization, so it might be that you realize that you need to move from a spreadsheet to a CRM, or you might need a new you might want an accounting system to go in that direction, or you might be looking at one of these productivity tools like Monday or Asana or things like that. I'd say take out trials and run a detailed comparison. Put the time in, because it's easier to do that up front than to move to a different system. And check the companies out as well. So if you're doing a trial, raise a support call, see what the response is like. I think for a business, for really critical business systems, so something that's going to be the cornerstone of your business, like a CRM, I think it's really good to talk to somebody at that organization and see what they're like as an organization, because you're going to be relying on their business as well. And I think also, like, check them out. I'm always slightly worried about sort of venture capitalist backed companies that have risen really quickly from nothing, and you want to know whether they're going to really care about the customers, or they're going to care more about the shareholders, and what is their business going to grow with your business. So there's a couple of things to check out there, just to make sure you do a bit of diligence around it. But before you think about selecting new software, I always think about whether you should revitalize the software that you've got. So there's thousands of companies out there that want your hard-earned cash for monthly subscriptions, and they'll have lots of really strong marketing spin. But really think carefully about whether the shiny new software is really going to benefit you, or whether you could spend that time reinvigorating your existing software. I honestly haven't been into a company yet that using all of the more advanced features that they could be out of the current software. So really think about that carefully, because it is a lot less effort to revigorate your existing software. There's a piece called subscribe and forget. So basically, when you sign up to new software, they want to get you to do the express setup, and that means the bare minimum you need to engage with that software, and really make sure that you continue to subscribe and pay your subscriptions. It takes a little bit of effort to really onboard a software properly within an organization, and this might be glossed over in the marketing messages. So So the outcome is you don't want to leave the benefit on the table that you're actually paying for. So I always think it might take 2 or 3 times longer than you think to really get a piece of software embedded in your organization. Integrate and automate. So these are the bits that are routinely not set up within software because you do the express setup. So the really good software allows you to connect it together, and this is where I get really excited about eliminating the cut and paste that we have to do every day. So, for example, a really good example of this is if you've got a CRM system and you win a sale, often there's a load of manual processes that go on after that. So that might be a big checklist of set them up in the accounting system, set them up in the delivery system, set them up in the support system, make sure they've got a folder for all the documents and things like that. And I think there's automation integration that can be really set up for that. So if that's something you're doing a lot, you can maybe automate some of those things. So you don't have to do it. Spreading the love. So this is my big one, and we'll come back to it at the end, which is about taking everybody on a journey with you and making sure that sometimes systems within a company, even a smallish company, can start off as a pet product for one person, but for their really success, you've got to get everybody on board and everybody using it. Otherwise people go back to revert to habits of using spreadsheets and things. And if not everyone's using it, how can you rely on the information that's stored within it? Quick one on how to succeed. So these are my 5 tips about how to succeed. So start with some planning. Start with what you want to fix and prioritize that against the outcome. So is it an improvement in your sales process or productivity, customer experience, or maybe staff well-being? And really think about your processes and procedures and what you need the software to do. Stamina, it's going to take 2 or 3 times more effort than you think to successfully change. So make sure you recognize this and make sure you see it through to the end. Think about the people. So take those people on a journey with you. I think that's really important. And again, I've got a slide at the end because I really want to pay that home. Mm-hmm. Long term, like an elephant, really think about the long-term output of how you're going to improve your systems. I think to improve an organization, improve your systems while still keeping the lights on, while still doing business is an exceptionally hard thing to do. So look for incremental changes and get comfortable about continuously evolving your software. And it's a journey to really make sure that your software and all your processes keep up with your business. I mean, you probably think that I'm going to talk about, get experts in or talk to experts, just like you would do a legal or an accountant. But I advertise getting some advice and some guidance about how to do the best thing. And there is some great people in the Alliance, like John and Oz, who are on today, who are really focused on the marketing area within the end-to-end systems you need within your organization. And there's also areas that I'm not going to cover in this talk that are super important, like security and data protection, which are actually more critical now. We're using more and more cloud software, and you don't know where your data is, and setting up the security on that can be something I get worried about. I just want to touch really quickly on data without covering too much in this talk, but I think making sure you know where your data is and how you can see it all in one place is one of the things I think can benefit companies of all shapes and sizes. I think especially as you scale, because you can't get a handle on everything, because as you scale, you won't be involved in everything that's happening within your business. So those things that you'd make gut instinct decisions on are now less informed because you're not as close to everything that's going on. So you want to be able to see trends within your business. You want to see things that what's going on. And I think if you think about where your important data is, it might be absolutely in your finance system, but then you might have information about your sales pipeline in your CRM, maybe a time recording system, marketing data and social media platforms, and obviously loads of spreadsheets. So sometimes it can be quite difficult to assimilate all this data together to really see what you're going on in your business. And the problem is the way cloud software is at the moment, and you'll use, maybe half a dozen to a dozen different pieces of software. That can be a bit of a challenge. So I would really think about putting a data strategy in place. But the last thing I really want to talk about is people. And I've mentioned it in a couple of the slides, but unless you get the technology, get everybody on board, It's the number one reason why I think systems are not as effective as they could be within organizations. So my secret to success really in here is to take everybody on a journey with you. So if you're going to change people's ways of working, make or introduce new systems, make sure they are brought into the big picture of why you're doing this right from the beginning. So understand if it's to make an organization more successful for their benefit, to make it more efficient or their lives easier. And I think making them involved in that every part of that journey is really, really critical. Because if you've got people that embrace new systems, they're going to innovate with it, and it's going to make their jobs positive. Because don't underestimate those first few weeks and months of changing to new systems and ways of working. Takes persistence and stamina, and I think it's difficult for people to make new ways of working habits. So you've got to get over that hump. But I think after a few weeks you start to see those benefits, but you really need to push through, otherwise people revert to old ways of working, and then the benefits that you're trying to get to won't be there. Okay, so there's my question to you all for the breakout room. Which areas of your business could benefit from software improvements? But I think it's really important when you do that to think about, what are the outcomes that's going to deliver for your business, rather than perhaps a bit of software that's a bit clunky and annoying to use, which is the bit that's really gonna push forward.
Awesome.